Good morning, students. In our previous video, we have seen different uh, transposition and substitution techniques which can be used in the process of encryption, or we can say in decryption also. So we discussed Caesar cipher because they have named these techniques after the cipher only, because they are not saying anything related to the decryption process. This thing many times we discussed. Whenever we perform the cryptography, we perform algorithm. I mean, this encryption algorithm as the primary thing, isn't it? And whatever encryption algorithm we are performing, the same thing we perform as part of our decryption. So, but in reverse order, whatever usual way we are following in order to perform the encryption, exactly reverse procedure we follow to perform the decryption. So that is the reason why they are calling these encryption algorithms as ciphers, and they are focusing more on the encryption algorithm only. So to perform the decryption, just we have to reverse the process, that's it. So that is the reason why they have named all these things after the encryption algorithm only. And Caesar cipher, it is one type of substitution technique in order to perform the encryption. In detail, we discussed how this Caesar cipher is helpful in order to encrypt the given plain text into ciphertext. Then we also discussed one Vagar cipher, that I have given only the idea how the encryption is being performed in that one. Then we have discussed this Playfair cipher and transposition technique like rail fence, isn't it? These things with these things we have concluded our previous video, and in today's video we are going to discuss some of the cryptographic attacks, and also the key size and the key range. These two are very important, and why they are going to play a vital role in the process of cryptography, that also we have to discuss. The key size and the key range. So basically these two things, key size as well as key range, these two are interrelated stuff. Okay, interrelated things. So change you if you made some change in the key size, automatically the key range will also change. So the range of keys, whatever possible keys we have, whatever possible options for the keys we have, if you take that complete range into consideration, we call it as the key range. Okay, we call it as the key range. Key range is nothing but the total number of keys from the smallest key to the largest available key. So our possible options for the key. So in case of that passcode example, I have given one passcode example for the mobile phone. In case of that passcode example, suppose if your key size is 1, if your key size is 1, yani if you have to enter only one digit to unlock your phone, then how many possible keys, how many possible key ranges you are going to have from 0 to 9, isn't it? From 0 to 9. So likewise 0 to 9 is your key range, and uh, given one digit. So let us assume you have one mobile phone, and to unlock that mobile phone you have to enter only one digit. You have to enter only one digit. And our possible options on numeric pad, how many keys, how many different options we are going to have from 0 to 9, isn't it? 0 to 9. This one digit is my key size. This is my key size, and this possibility 0 to 9 is my key range. Is my key range. So in this way you have to understand, this is my key size. Only one digit I have to enter. So what is my key size? Only one digit. And what is key range? How many possibilities for that key I have? On my numeric pad I have 9 digits. So I can enter any of these 9 digits as part of my key. So my key range is 0 to 9, that is total 10, isn't it? Total 10. And my key size is only one digit. So in this way the key size and key range can be understood. Okay, key range is the total number of keys from smallest to the largest available keys. An attacker usually is armed with the knowledge of the cryptographic algorithm. See, whenever we are thinking of an attacker, we have to keep in mind that he already knows the cryptographic algorithm, He already knows the cryptographic algorithm, as well as he's going to have our ciphertext also, because we are transferring the ciphertext over the public network by sniffing in the sense, generally dogs will do this thing, isn't it? Sniffing in the sense, it they will by smelling the content, they will look for some useful content to eat. Generally dogs will sniff, isn't it? Sniffer dogs we say, isn't it? So they will sniff in the sense, they will smell the network, they will observe the network for transmission, and once the transmission is been happened, means simply they will capture the ciphertext from the public network. They will capture the ciphertext from the public network. So now the attacker is armed with two things. The first one is the cryptographic algorithm, which is very major, very important thing, and that thing is already public, and he knows the cryptographic algorithm. And the second thing is ciphertext, that also we are transmitting over the public channel, so he can easily capture that ciphertext by simply sniffing the network. And two more entities that are missing over here is the plain text and the key. So the attacker, he has to gain the knowledge of key, as well as he has to capture the plain text from the given from the ciphertext. So attacker is already armed with cryptographic algorithm as well as the ciphertext. So by making use of these two things, by making use of cryptographic algorithm as well as by making use of ciphertext, he always try to gain the knowledge about the key, as well as he always try to capture the plain text from the ciphertext. Hope you understood. So here, if you read this statement, the second statement, an attacker usually is armed with the knowledge of the cryptographic algorithm and the encrypted message. Encrypted message is nothing but your ciphertext only. So only the actual key value remains the challenge for the attacker, isn't it? He wants to gain the key, or he wants to gain the knowledge about the key, and that is a challenge to him. Okay, that is a challenge to him. If the key is found, the attacker can get the original message. Original message is nothing but your plain text only. If the key is found, how he is going to find the key means by making use of ciphertext cryptographic algorithm. He tries to find the key. Once the key is found, the attacker can get original message, because he already have the encrypted algorithm as well as the ciphertext. Only key is missing. If he gets the key, simply he will apply that key with the ciphertext and perform that encryption algorithm in reverse order to gain the plain text. Hopefully you got this. So this is how the key range is going to help the attacker. In the brute force attack, generally what will happen in the brute force attack, what I told you, every possible key in the key range is tried. So whatever key range we have, so in our scenario, yeah, what is the key range? 0 to 9 is key range. Suppose if an attacker wants to perform the brute force attack, so if he wants to perform the brute force attack, what he will do generally? Brute force. Okay, what he will do generally means he has to enter only one digit in order to open your mobile, isn't it? He has to enter only one digit in order to open your mobile. So what he will do, he will try the complete key range. Whatever key range he's having, he will try that complete key range in order to break this passcode, in order to break this lock which you put on your mobile phone. So he will try starting with 0, failure, starting with 1, failure. Likewise, he try all the keys up to 9, okay, up to 9, till he finds the actual key. So in our scenario, if the password is 9, if the password is 9, how many tries he has to make? If he tries the 9 digit in the first attempt itself, if he tries the 9 digit in the first attempt itself, then he will get the key, isn't it? He will get the key. So getting the actual key in the first attempt, getting the actual key in the first attempt, we call it as the best case scenario. Best case, without any effort, the attacker is getting your actual key. So getting the actual key in the first attempt is the best case scenario, and it is generally it will not happen, because we are going to have a very long key, and getting that long key in the first attempt itself, it is not the not a possible way, not a practical way, we mean to say. Okay, so next thing is getting the possible key in the last attempt. He tried all the keys and he's trying the last key before he finds the actual key. So we call it as the worst case scenario, isn't it? He tried all the keys and he's trying the last key now. So finding the key in such a way is the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, finding the key in the first attempt. Under your brute force attack, if you find the key in your first attempt itself, we call it as best case scenario. And if you're not finding the key and you're trying all the possible keys from your key range and you're trying the last key, at that moment you're finding the actual key. So we call such a scenario as the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. At an average, every attacker has to check 50% of the keys from the key range before finding the actual key. How many keys the attacker has to check? 50%. Okay, at least he has to check the 50% keys from the key range before finding the actual key. It is a study made by the cryptanalysts. It is a study made by the cryptanalysts. According to that study, every attacker, okay, every cryptanalyst is nothing but your attacker only. So every cryptanalyst or every attacker has to perform or has to check for the possible keys from the key range up to 50%. So whatever key range we have from that key range up to 50% we have to check. Then only the attacker can get the actual key. So we call this scenario as the average case scenario. Average case. So what is the best case? Finding the key in the first attempt. What is the worst case? Finding the key in the last attempt. After trying all the keys, you are trying the last key and you are finding that key as the actual key. So we call it as the worst case scenario. And according to the study made by the cryptanalyst, they found that every attacker has to check at least a minimum of 50% keys before finding the actual key. We call that scenario as the average case scenario. Average case scenario. So this is over here I have explained. See, in the best case, the right key is found in the first attempt, and in the worst case, the key is found in the last attempt. On an average, the right key is found after trying half of the possible keys from the key range. Whatever key range you have, from that keys, you have to try at least half of the keys before finding the actual key. This is the study made by the cryptanalysts. Therefore, how we can make our algorithm, or how we can make our crypto system loophole free in the sense, problem free in the sense, just increase the key size as much as possible so that to get the expanded range of keys. So as I told you, so generally what will happen in our crypto system, we are going to use the binary keys, isn't it? Binary digit keys. So if you take only one bit, so I will take a fresh page to explain that one. So if you take only one bit, what are my possible keys with this one bit? Only two possible keys, 0 and 1. Isn't it? 0 or 1. Only two possibilities. If I take 2 bit as my key size, if I take key size as 2 bits, this is only 1 bit. So in this 1 bit, I can store either 0 or 1. I can store only either 0 or 1. So my possible key range is either 0 or 1. I can store over here either 0 or 1. So this is my key size, only 1 bit, and I can store only 0 and 1. So that is my key range. So in my key range, how many possibilities I have? 0, 1. Only these things. But if I take 2 bit keys, so if I take 2 bit keys, how many bytes I will get? 2 bytes I will get, isn't it? I will get 2 bits, and in these 2 bits, how many possible keys I can store? One is 0 0, other one is 0 1, 1 0, 1 1 like this with 2 bits. What is 2 bits is my key size. What is the key size over here? Key size is 2 bits. 2 bits. And what is my key range? Range is 4. That is nothing but 2 power 2. Range is 2 power 2. So this is my range. So I can have any of these things as my key, any of these possibilities as my key. I can select 0 0 as my key, or I can select 0 1 as my key, or 1 0 1 1 like this. I can select any of these four possibilities as my key. So if I make my key size as 2 bits, the attacker has to check only these four options. The attacker has to check only these four options because our crypto system is a binary system. Okay, he first, in the first attempt, he will perform the brute force attack with 0 0. If he finds the key, so let us assume that our key is this one. Our key is 1 0. Let us assume this is our actual key. From this key range, this is our actual key. So what the attacker will do? The attacker will start his cryptanalysis by entering this 0 0 as the key. If he finds the plain text, he will consider this 0 0 as the key. If he don't find the plain text, again what he will do? 1 0 1 he will try. Then 1 0 he will try. Likewise, he will find the actual key over here. So in this, the attacker will perform the brute force attack. So if 2-bit size key, it is not practical, isn't it? One can easily break because we have only 4 possibilities for the key. So if I make 3 bits, then what will happen? 3 bits, what are my possibilities now with 3 bits? Yes, I can take 0 0 0, 0 0 1, 0 1 0, 0 1 1, then 1 0 0, 1 0 1, 1 1 0, and 1 1 1. So how many? I guess 8, isn't it? So 8. So with a key size 3 bits, I got the range as 1. Range as 8. So that is nothing but 2 power 3. So whatever key size, number of bits you are taking, simply put that key size on 2 power to get the key range. So suppose in practical scenarios, what they observed, so therefore we read this statement first. Therefore, by expanding the key range to a large extent, longer it will take. See, the more the key size, the longer the range will become. The longer the range, the difficult it become for the attacker to crack the key. Okay, basically, if your key size is very large and if your range is like very huge, then what will happen? The attacker has to spend more time to get the actual key before cracking your message from ciphertext to plain text. So generally what will happen if the attacker is spending more time on working out of this key means, what will happen? The importance of that message what you have sent will no longer exist, isn't it? Will no longer exist. Even if the attacker able to crack that message after like 1 month. Okay, you told your friend, okay, he's a VIP, let us assume he's a VIP, he's a uh, um, very important person in the society, and he's your friend, and you want your friend to meet at some public area. So you're informing your friend that meet me tomorrow evening at 7 a.m. in so and so park, 7 p.m. in so and so park. So if that message got leaked, okay, to an attacker, to some untrusted party, he can plan something on that VIP person, isn't it? He can plan something on that VIP person. So simply to avoid that one, what we are doing, we are uh, encrypting that message and sending that message to our friend. So what attacker will do? Attacker will gain the ciphertext. Attacker will gain the cryptographic algorithm as well. Now he tries to get the actual key. Before finding the plain text or before cracking the ciphertext. So he starts his cryptanalysis, and that cryptanalysis, if your key size is small, he can easily crack that message in minutes, isn't it? In minutes. So if your key size is very long, then what will happen? Your key range will become some exponential With that, he will have some bulk of keys, and before finding the actual key, what will happen? Your friend will come, your friend will meet you, and your friend will go into a secured place once again. So even if the attacker, he will gain the message content after 2 days, after 3 days. Okay, by that time, what will happen? The meaning of that message will no longer exist, isn't it? The importance of that message will no longer exist. So in that way, selecting the long size key and making the key range huge is helpful in in avoiding the cryptanalysis, we can say, in avoiding the cryptanalysis. So the key size, again, I told you, the more the key size, the more range you will get for the keys. So the concept of key range leads to the principle of key size. The strength of a cryptographic key is measured with the key size. The more the key size, it is very difficult to crack that crypto system. It is very difficult to crack that crypto system. Key size is measured in number, in bits. Already I told you, cryptographic system, whatever we are going to follow, it is a binary cryptographic system, and key size is measured in number of bits over there. Okay, using the binary number system. Thus, if the key range is from 0 to 8, okay, 0 to 8, already we did that practice over here. So this is 0 to 8, from here to here. So our key range is 0 to 8. Then what is the key size? 3 bits. We already discussed this one. So key range is 0 to 8, then our key size is 3 bits. So likewise, if we take 8 bits of key, then our key range will become 0 to 256. So how many keys in our key range we'll get means 256 keys we will get. So according to a study, what is the best possible key size that you can take means, see, key size may be varying depending upon the application and the cryptographic algorithm being used. It can be from 40 bits, 56 bits, and 128 bits. Like this, they are selecting, and so on. So these type of key sizes they are taking. So only with 8 bits, how many possible keys we are getting? 256 we are getting. So think of 2 power 40, 40 bits. Think of this 40 bits. If your key size is 40 bits, what is your key range in that case? If your key size is 40 bits, then what will be the key range? The key range you will get like 2 power 40. Just calculate this value. It is a very big value. So these many keys you will get if you take 40 bits. So we have algorithms where 56 bit size key size can also be applicable. So you will get over there, you will get 2 power 56 possible keys. Okay, we also have 128 bit keys. We also have 128 bit keys in our algorithm. So over here, what will be the range? Range something like this, 2 power 128. 2 power and 128, it is a very enormous value, gigantic value, we can say. 2 power 180, 2 power 128 in the sense. So yeah, we go further and we see, so in order to protect the cipher's text against the brute force attack, the key size should be such that the attacker cannot crack it within the specified amount of time. So when you are sending a message, you have to make your key size in such a way that the value, the importance of that message should die. If the importance of that message is no more exist, it doesn't mean whether the attacker is cracking that message or not, isn't it? So from a practical point of view, a 40-bit key takes around 3 hours, because generally they will not use, the cryptanalysts, they will not use pen and paper to crack your key. They will program a computer. And they will give your ciphertext to crack that key, I mean to get that key. So simply what over there, what the computer will do means it will start comparing all the keys with the ciphertext from the key range. Okay, so a 40-bit key, if you have 40-bit key and the cryptanalyst is making one computer to crack that key, then how much time it is taking means 3 hours of time it is taking in order to crack that 40-bit key. Just see how I mean this system where it is going. Even taking 40-bit key is not enough, isn't it? Even taking 40-bit key is not enough, and the cryptanalysts, they are cracking that 40-bit key in just the span of 3 hours. just the span of 3 hours. Yani, if you are using 40-bit key, how much time duration you have means only 3 hours of duration you have. If you want to deliver some confidential information and that confidentiality will last up to 3 hours only, means you can use this 40-bit key, because once the 3 hours are over means your message will not become any confidential. Okay, your message will not be confidential anymore, I mean to say your message will not be confidential anymore. Once you have delivered the message, the attacker will start cracking that message, and you have only 3 hours because your key size is 40 bits. And in 3 hours he can crack the key, and with that key he can get the plain text. Okay, so if you have something very confidential and the confidentiality you wants to last up to 3 hours only, then you can use this 40 bit key. So simply by incrementing one bit into that 40 bit, if you take 41-bit key, it takes around 6 hours to crack that message. If you take 40 to 12 hours. So simply by after 40 bits, simply by incrementing only one bit, you are doubling the time. You are doubling the time. So 40 bits, it is taking 3 hours, and 41 bits, it is taking 6 hours. 42 bits, it will take 12 hours. Likewise, as the number of bits you are going to increase, the time will also increase. The time will also increase. So every additional bit doubles the amount of time required to crack the key. Here you can read that statement. Over here you can read that statement. Every additional bit doubles the amount of time required to crack the key. We can assume that 128-bit key is quite safe. So simply to crack this 42-bit, it is taking 12 hours. So like that, if you double, keep on double, and if you reach this 128, the time will be in years. I mean to say, time will be in years, like 100 year, 200 year, it will take to crack that key. It is quite impractical to say in order to crack a particular key, I need 100 years of time, isn't it? If the cryptanalyst is saying that in order to crack your key, I need like 100 years of time, nobody will pay attention to it, isn't it? Nobody will give importance to it, isn't it? So in that way, the cryptographers or cryptanalysts made a study, and according to that study, taking 128-bit key is quite safe. Okay, considering the capabilities of today's computers, whatever computational power we have in today's computing environment, according to that, taking 128-bit key is quite safe. But in future, we don't know. Maybe we get some quantum computers, some hydra computers in future. They are going to perform the works or the comparisons even faster, and whatever work one computer is doing in 1 year, maybe the supercomputer which we are expecting in future will do the same job in a fraction of second, isn't it? In a fraction of second. Then what will happen? Whatever key size we are taking for today's computational power, maybe it is taking 100 years of time, but for tomorrow's future technology, it may take like minutes in order to crack that message or in order to get that key. Maybe in minutes the supercomputers will do. So in future also, what we have to do, yes, we have to do the study and we have to find out a suitable solution, either by incrementing the key size or by incrementing the key range. Okay, we have to check for possible options. We have to check for possible options. So simply what I want to conclude over here is, whatever key size, whatever key range we are taking in today's computing environment, and whatever we have taken in olden days, it changed drastically. It changed drastically, and the same change we are expecting in the future also. Same change we are expecting in the future also, because as the computational power of the computer is going to increase, definitely we have to find a new solution in order to protect our confidential information. Because at some point, the cryptanalysts, they can easily crack our message, they can easily get the important message from our ciphertext. Okay, so how many different types of attacks a cryptanalyst can perform on our crypto system? You have a crypto system. Crypto system is what it is, means it is a combination of plain text, ciphertext, encryption algorithm, decryption algorithm. It is both are same only, isn't it? Encryption, decryption, both are same only, just the reverse. So we consider it as encryption algorithm and then the key. If by combining all these things, we call that particular system as a crypto system. A crypto system. So why we made this crypto system, what is the necessity of making this crypto system, means to transfer our important message in a confidential way to our receivers, to transfer our important messages or confidential messages in a secured way to our recipients. So that is the primary goal of establishing this crypto system. So the first possible type of attack, already we discussed this attack and how the attack has been performed by the cryptanalyst, that also we have discussed. It is the basic type of cryptographic attacks, that is the brute force attack. Brute force attack. So according to this brute force attack, the attacker has to check every possible key from your key range, every possible key from your key range, uh, uh, okay, before finding the actual key, before finding the actual key. So according, yeah, the best case is if the attacker finding the key in the first attempt. Yeah, if the worst case is if the attacker finding the key in the last attempt. And the average case, we said, according to a study, every attacker, every cryptanalyst, he has to check, he has to perform the decryption process, he has to perform the research on finding the key at least 50% from the key range. At least on 50% keys from the key range. Then only there is a possibility of finding the actual key. So see, this brute force attack, it may take smaller amount of time for smaller keys, but it will take immeasurable amount of time for larger keys. Let us assume the possibility of 128-bit key. Okay, 128-bit key, and if the attacker is performing brute force, it will take an immeasurable time or enormous time before he finds the actual key. Okay, by that time the legitimacy of that message or the importance of that message, that no more exist, no more exist. Hence it is impractical to try brute force attack on modern encryption systems, whatever encryption systems we have in today's computing environment. Applying the brute force attack on those, why we are discussing, means it is a traditional way of finding the key, or it is a traditional way of performing the analysis only, isn't it? It is a traditional way of performing the cryptanalysis. That is the reason why we are studying brute force attack. But applying the brute force attack to the today's modern computing technology, it is no more a valid case. It is no more a valid case. So the next thing, the cipher only attack. Cipher only attack. The attacker knows the ciphertext of various messages. Yeah, what he will do, the attacker will gain the ciphertext, and by knowing the ciphertext, the attacker performs the cryptanalysis. Okay, so in the cipher only attack, the attacker knows the ciphertext of various messages which have been encrypted using the same encryption algorithm. So simply he monitors the transmission and he will gain two or three ciphertext in hand, and by studying those ciphertext, he will try to gain the knowledge about the key. The attacker's challenge is to figure out the key, which can then be used to decrypt all messages. The cipher only attack is probably one of the easiest attack to commit, since it is easy to capture the ciphertext simply by, already I explained this point. It is very easy to capture the ciphertext simply by monitoring or simply by observing the transmission. Okay, so the next category of attack, known plain text attack. So the attacker, what he did means, by some means he captured one plain text. Definitely transmission means we are going to send more number of messages to our recipients. From that more number of messages, the uh, attacker, what he will do means he will gain one plain text. By some means he is gaining one plain text. Now he is having many ciphertexts from the transmissions, many ciphertext in hand as well as one plain text in hand, and he also have the cryptographic algorithm in hand, isn't it? He also have the cryptographic algorithm in hand. Now having all these things, yeah, from that ciphertext to plain text, how the algorithm performed, how the algorithm converted. He will check the patterns and he will try to gain the knowledge about the key. So simply by performing the reverse engineering, what I mean to say is simply by performing the reverse engineering from plain text to ciphertext, how the things has been happened. Okay, how the things has been happened and what plays the role over there as a mediator thing, that key. So they will try to get the knowledge about that key. So once he get the knowledge about the key, he can decrypt all the ciphertext and he can texts and he can get the plain text of all those ciphertext. So this is known plain text attack, and this type of attack, it was invented during the World War II. Okay, Second World War, and it is widely used at that time. So next is chosen plain text attack. What he will do means, what the attacker will do means, he chooses one plain text from different ciphertext. He will assume one plain text, and by assuming that plain text, simply he performs the cryptanalysis to gain the knowledge about the key. Okay, he's already having the ciphertext, he's already having the what we call encryption algorithm. So he simply chooses any random thing as a plain text, and he performs the reverse engineering. And he will check for the possibility of key, and with that key he will decrypt all the messages. So chosen ciphertext attack, what, because we already have the encryption algorithm, isn't it? He simply chooses a ciphertext and try to perform decryption with some random ciphertext. Okay, he will take any random ciphertext and he perform the decryption to gain the plain text. Okay, he then compares the decrypted ciphertext with the plain text and figures out the key. So basically it is a kind of cryptanalysis where the attackers are going to do some random stuff, some random things to figure out the key. Once the key is figured out, it is very easy, relatively very easy to perform, to what we call, to convert all the plain texts into all the ciphertext into plain texts. Okay, then we have differential cryptanalysis, and this technique was popularly used in block cipher algorithms such as DES. DES is a block cipher algorithm, and it was invented in the 1990. The primary aim of this attack is to find out the key only. So how he is going to find out that key means, the attacker follows several messages of plain text into their transformed ciphertext. What they will do, whenever they are finding some ciphertext with respect to some plain text, they will study all those ciphertexts. Okay, he observed changes from the changes from plain text to the ciphertext and deduce the key. How it is changing, the how the ciphertext is changed according to the plain text, he observed that change, and with that observation he is going to he tries to find out the key. Okay, then we have linear cryptanalysis. It is also known as known plain text attack, because whatever known plain text attack the attacker has carried out, it is very similar to the linear cryptanalysis only. This gives the attacker insight into the probability of a particular key. Okay, if more messages are attacked, there is a higher possibility of finding the particular key very easily. Okay, so next, side channel attack. It is nowhere he is going to take the ciphertext or plain text. Simply what he will do means, he will observe the power consumption, how much power the transmission channel is consuming and how much radiation it is emitting. Okay, instead of focusing on ciphertext and plain text and the key, so I mean, instead of focusing on cryptographic algorithms, ciphertext and plain text in order to gain the knowledge about the key, yeah, he is doing some other things. The attacker is doing some other things like side channel attack. It is a type of attack where the attacker is going to monitor, or where the attacker is going to observe how much power the channel is consuming and how much radiation the channel is emitting for this data processing. So based on this data, the attacker tries to figure out the key. So whatever attack has been happened, RSA algorithm, we have one of the efficient algorithm of this cryptography, and it was also attacked in the year 1995, and the type of attack the cryptanalysts used is the side channel attack only. Instead of focusing on the ciphertext and instead of deducing the key from the ciphertext, instead of doing the pattern matching techniques on plain text and ciphertext, what they have done means they have studied the channel. Okay, they have studied the channel, and based on that knowledge they tried to figure out the key for the RSA algorithm. Then we have replay attack. This is the last category of attack under our cryptographic attacks. So in this attack, replay attack, the attacker captures some information. So basically what he does means he try to get the authentication information of the sender. So by doing so, what he will do, he pretends, he dupes himself like a sender to the receiver. So in an assumption that the sender itself asking some valuable information to the receiver will give all the confidential information to the sender. Simply what he does means he discloses the key also to the attacker. So in that way replay attacks will occur in the crypto systems. So this is the last possibility, last possible attack that we have to study under these cryptographic attacks, and this is the last concept under your first unit, cryptographic attacks. So with that, with this we are concluding our first unit. Okay, thank you students.